Welcome to Caregiver Chats. Today we're talking about younger onset dementia and the unique challenges that come with it, particularly for families with children and young adult caregivers. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Hi, Dr. Lakelyn here. I'm a gerontologist and caregiving advocate for Onset, an honor company. I'm so glad you're taking the time to listen. Be sure to subscribe to Caregiver Chats on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app. I also love your questions. You can email me at caregiverchats@homeinsteadinc.com. That's caregiverchats@homeinsteadinc.com. When most people think of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, they picture something that only affects older adults. But the reality is that we're seeing more and more cases of dementia being diagnosed in people under the age of 65, sometimes even as young as a person in their 30s or 40s. Young onset dementia brings unique challenges, especially for families who may be still raising children, building their careers, or just beginning a new life chapter. These caregivers often feel invisible in traditional support systems. That's why I'm so grateful to be joined today by two incredible advocates, Shulla-Cose and Patti LaFleur, who have both walked this path and are working to make sure that no young caregiver has to do it alone. Diana and Patti are passionate advocates for families impacted by young onset dementia. Diana is the founder of Lorenzo's House and a former care partner to her husband, Lorenzo. She brings decades of experience in education, leadership, and nonprofit innovation, and she brings that all to her work, supporting younger families navigating dementia. Patti is a former elementary educator and caregiver to her mother. She leads youth programming at Lorenzo's House. Drawing on her personal journey and professional background, she creates meaningful, inclusive spaces for young caregivers. I'm so excited to talk more with these passionate individuals. Welcome, Patti and Diana. So great to have you both here.
Hello. Thanks for having us, Lakelyn.
Yeah, thank you so much for having this opportunity to have a conversation.
Yes, I'm so excited. I've gotten to know a little bit about Lorenzo's House over the last few months since we had been introduced, and I thought, we need to talk about this on Caregiver Chats because your mission is just so important and impactful. So, Diana, I would love to start with you and have you share with us your personal story and how Lorenzo's House came to be.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks again, Lakelyn, for giving us this platform. It means so much to our community because the more places we are given to spread our mission, the more families we will find and connect. So thank you so much. Lorenzo's House is really a labor of love. It was founded, I guess, in a story that started with me being lucky in love. Lorenzo and I got lucky with love. I met him the night I moved to Chicago, and some 20 years later, we had two beautiful sons and what I call a diagnosis of the family. This was new for us. I knew nothing of Alzheimer's. It was not in either of our families. It completely caught us off guard. We didn't know what it was for many years, as many younger families do. And once the diagnosis was given, we realized very quickly that there was so little for a family like ours, with our profile, younger, with younger children with dementia. And it confused me that I couldn't find sort of a place to land. And there was certainly nothing for our kids. Justin was 13 at the time brain change showed up in our home, and Lucas was 9.
Wow.
So my world for 25 years prior had been in public education and urban education in Chicago as a teacher and a school leader, and then a founder of a network of charter schools in Chicago. And I thought, well, maybe I could leverage my past experience as a bit of a social entrepreneur. And I've learned so much from so many people in that space that I thought, well, maybe I could bring some of my skills and see if I could begin to fill this gap. And so in 2021, out of our son's bedroom, he went to college in that year, we founded Lorenzo's house, kind of our family. And there was a computer and an idea. And here we are today, literally 4 years later. And our reach is over 2,200 family members. Wow. We just spoke to over 100 countries at a Alzheimer's Disease International webinar last week. And I think that we are growing so fast because there is such a need, and there is this sense of families like mine feeling unseen and underrepresented and misunderstood and undiagnosed and under-resourced. And so Lorenzo's house is here to what we call in our language is to heal in community as families, and to also now we're finding advocate for dementia justice. And the thread through it all, and sort of what continues to elevate is this constant sense of our young people, our sons and our daughters, who understand this condition more intimately than any of us. Their voices are really being elevated at Lorenzo's house and are really used as our compass to both heal in community and advocate for dementia justice. So that's a bit of the background and sort of how it's in briefly how it looks today.
Wow, Diana, it is very clear that you are filling that gap. I can't believe in just, 4 short years, you've been able to connect with so many families and sons and daughters and provided that sense of community. And it's just really neat to see that community continue to grow and make an impact. And in my time of knowing you, Diana, and you, Patti, I can sense your passion and your drive to just reach as many people as possible. And that is just so inspiring to me and just makes me want to come alongside you and support in any way that I can. And Patti, I know, you were one of those families that connected with Lorenzo's house. You have this really lived experience. And now you've come on board Lorenzo's house as an employee as well. So can you just maybe share with us your story, how you found Lorenzo's house, and a little bit about what you do now for the organization?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lakelyn. Thank you for walking alongside us and for recognizing the importance of our mission and the need. I am Patti, and more importantly, though, I am the daughter of Linda. So my beautiful mom, Linda, walked with younger onset dementia. And for over 8 years of my journey, I was looking for community. I was looking for people who understood this unique journey as a young adult who was walking it with a mom. And it wasn't until I ended up in a Zoom room with Diana that I finally felt seen and like I had a home. It was a space to really be around others who understood the unique challenges of having a younger onset dementia diagnosis enter your family. And so now my mom passed a little bit over 3 years ago. I started to get involved with the organization after she passed, because when she passed, I was like, do I go back to who I was before this journey? Or do I start to kind of figure out how I can be one of those people, like she was naming about the sons and daughters who want to advocate, who want to fight back, who want to be part of the change. And so a year and a half ago, I joined the team officially, and now I have this beautiful opportunity to lead our programs and really walk alongside families every day and lean in and listen and elevate their wisdom and provide this space for community and connection and to help cure that isolation, but really a place to elevate their stories, elevate their lived experience, and for them to fight back or heal in whatever way makes the most sense for them. But it's just this place for families to come together. And I just get to be this beautiful opportunity to just walk alongside.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Patti. So often I hear caregivers talk about, once their caregiving journey ends, it actually never really ends.
Never.
Because you have this passion inside of you to help the next generation or to help others who are going through a similar situation. And I think what's so unique about younger onset is there's very different challenges that are faced by these families, these sons and daughters. And so I would love to really dive into those challenges. And then I want to get to what Lorenzo's house is doing in terms of programming. But Patti, since you were just sharing about, you were so young when your mom was diagnosed, what challenges did you face that was unique compared to other family caregivers, maybe caring for an older individual that had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's? And also, how did you navigate, being in this position that was so different from your peers?
Yeah, for sure. That's such a powerful question, right? So with younger onset dementia, so often many important milestones are disrupted. The brain change in my mom was happening during a time when I was experiencing some of my biggest life moments, graduating from college, getting married, navigating my early stages of my career. And my friends weren't walking a similar journey. They were kind and supportive in the way that they could, but they didn't understand. I was losing my mom, my best friend, during a time I really wanted someone to be that cheerleader or to offer that advice or to celebrate those moments with me. And so then there was an added layer of grief in watching this person who had always been my rock and my person start to lose pieces of herself and not be able to show up in the way that I knew she would want to show up in those moments. And then she was increasingly becoming dependent on my dad and myself. And so during these moments, I was navigating such heavy anticipatory grief, and I didn't have the name for it at that time. It just felt so hard and heavy. And now as I reflect, those were moments of grief that I was experiencing all along my journey. And then the other piece, really, the other unique challenge is when someone is in their 70s or their 80s or their 90s and living with dementia, there seems to be a little bit more room for understanding from others, right? But there is this outside assumption or stigma because of the age of my mom or how my mom presented or how she was healthy, except for experiencing these brain change, that it couldn't be dementia. So when someone is younger, like my mom or Lorenzo, there's often less awareness. And so the stigma can be so heavy and so thick. And so often I had to advocate that my mom was experiencing brain change or experiencing a cognitive decline for others in the world to be a little bit more empathetic and compassionate to her. And so it's this different kind of isolation, and the stigma can just be so thick and heavy for our families.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Patti, and sharing kind of the challenges from the daughter's perspective. Diana, what about from your perspective as a care partner, a spouse to someone living with younger onset and a mother to children who are trying to understand, wrap their minds around what's happening, and then kind of just trying to navigate that whole scenario? What challenges did you encounter that were unique kind of to the young onset families?
Right. So, this question is so important. It's so personal, right? And I think Lorenzo's house gives us this place to tell these personal stories so that we can make meaning of it for ourselves, and also lend that story so another person can tell their story with that sense of vulnerability, so we can connect and find our way through this really unforgiving condition. For me, I feel like one of the greatest challenges has been witnessing our sons lose their papa in this way, because it is a condition that is behaviors are complicated, they're complex. The daily experience is confusing to adults, let alone to kids. We had our care team at Chicago Medicine. Tessa, our social worker, was so fantastic, and she gave us this very simple but powerful tool, which was having the kids say, when dad was acting different, it's the condition, it's not papa. And I witnessed our older son feeling like he needed to kind of step in and While he was walking through his own grief as a teenager, he also felt like he needed to step in and up as a firstborn and be more, even though he didn't know how to, but I could see him wanting to do that. And I also witnessed, our Lucas, who was 4 years younger. I remember one time him saying, so profound, we're losing the family we had, Mama. So there's nothing light about how this touches a family. And it is exactly why we need Lorenzo's house. So that's the personal side. The clinical side is families like ours were confused because we go to our primary care and they say things like, well, maybe your husband's experiencing, or your wife is experiencing depression, midlife crises. Maybe it's ADHD. It's something other than a neurodegenerative condition. So what we have learned from our families is that oftentimes one of the greatest challenges is that a family's path to diagnosis is multi-year, multi-doctor, multi-diagnosis. So it's another reason why Lorenzo's house matters so much. We're advocating for that dementia justice, that sense of, wait a minute, primary care doctors, you need to annually make sure that you're doing some sort of a test that shows cognitive strength, So those are a couple ways that are unique challenges to younger families.
Well, thank you so much, Diana, for sharing such a personal perspective. You too, Patti, as well, just being so vulnerable and sharing your story. And as you mentioned, Diana, it does open the door for others to connect. And I think that's probably one of the many reasons that Lorenzo's house is growing at such kind of, I would say, extraordinary measures, because you are opening the door for those connections and that vulnerability to a group that really doesn't have anywhere else to connect. And what I have loved learning about your programming is you support family members as young as, toddler, little kid age, grade school, all the way through care partner and those in their kind of post-caregiving journey, those that are going through that grief and need that additional support. And so I would love for you to share more about your programming. And Patti, since that's kind of your wheelhouse, what you oversee, would you mind sharing more about the programs that you have at Lorenzo's house? Because I just think it's so beautiful, the different opportunities you provide for connection.
And can I just thank you? Can I do a caveat that I want to make sure Patti's going to beautifully share what we do and how we do it. But I think it's really important that our listeners also understand that we are a virtual organization. I don't think I said that in the beginning. We are virtual. All of our programs are virtual, and that we are exclusively and sort of unapologetically for the families, the sons, the daughters, and their families of younger onset, specifically of any form, whether it's Lewy body, Alzheimer's, FTD. So I just wanted to clarify that as Patti walks through our programs.
Thank you so much, Diana. And something you said, Lakelyn, too, is this power of sharing our stories. And that is something that Diana brought up, too. And that is at the heart of everything that we do, right? Sometimes you're ready to share your personal story, but sometimes you're at a place where you just want to hear another story. And by hearing that story, you can feel seen and connected. So just want to name the power of even listening to stories as a way to heal, even if you're not at a place that you're ready. But thank you for allowing for us to share a little bit about our programs. And as you said, we serve young people. And as Diana said, we are unapologetically for families affected by younger onset dementia. I also want to name, we have been growing so much. Just in the last month, we had over 150 inquiries. And when a family reaches out to us here at Lorenzo's house, myself or one of my trained Lighthouse volunteers reaches out and welcomes them into the virtual doors of Lorenzo's house. And it's this beautiful opportunity to share pieces of our story, to lean in and listen to pieces of their story, and both connect them to our programs and then to programs even external to Lorenzo's house. But here at Lorenzo's house, our solution to the global problem is our 3 pillar programs. Match, Clubs, and Summit. So our match is a proven carer to carer connection model designed for families walking with younger onset dementia. It's a one-to-one connection with a peer of a similar profile. It may be a single Zoom or phone conversation, right? They may have a question and someone in the community may have expertise or understanding about Social Security disability or about placement opportunities. It could be a series of text messages, or it can evolve into a lasting friendship where they are getting together and they're having dinner and they're bringing their families together. Our clubs are our virtual support groups. So we have a bright brunch for female care partners and a light lounge for male care partners. And then we have our light clubs and shine on, which are for the sons and daughters ages 4 to 40 plus. These are places to connect, share stories, exchange insights, and build that trusted alliance. Our clubs are facilitated and led based on the needs of the community. So we host children's, teens, and young adult sessions. We have a young children's session for those ages 4 to 7, where we use picture books to talk about Papa Bear's brain change and how we can see how Baby Bear and Little Bear are helping Papa Bear so that we can begin to have those conversations. In our children's group, we use storytelling and play to connect and build that community and a safe space to ask questions. Our teens learn techniques for navigating brain change in their home. How do I tell one friend? How do I tell my basketball coach about mom or dad's brain condition? And then how do we navigate that stigma when we're at a basketball game or at the grocery store and really build that collective toolkit? And then our young adults co-facilitate the sessions. They're truly leading in our virtual healing spaces, building mindfulness practices, journaling, and sharing their collective wisdom. And then our third pillar program, which is coming up in June, is our virtual youth summit. This year, it will take place on June 20th and 21st, and it is a worldwide event specifically for daughters and sons of younger onset. In 2021, we gathered 21 young people in a Zoom room, and this year we expect over 400.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And Youth Summit is so special because it is led by youth leads. So it is led by the sons and daughters who are currently walking or have walked this journey. This year, our youngest youth lead is 8, and they help to co-design and co-facilitate every session. Some of the sessions this year are Our Stories, Our Wisdom, Ask the Neurologist, Dementia, A Global Perspective, Healthy Expressions of Grief and Loss, and we'll have a collective art experience together on Friday. But with all of our programs, the young people and the power of lived experience are at the heart of everything we do.
I think that is probably one of your many keys to success is you're always involving the younger people and having them support one another, have them contribute, and then also providing them access to experts like neurologists and social workers. And I think that is absolutely incredible. And we have made sure to link in the show notes to your website so people can get connected to these programs and also sign up for your upcoming summit, so that folks can really tap into these incredible programs and resources. So thank you so much for sharing that, Patti. And I know that you're still a young organization, although you are maturing quickly. I would love to know, and maybe Diana, from you, what is next for Lorenzo's house? What is kind of your vision for the future going forward? And how do you plan to kind of build upon this rapid success that you have experienced because of that need?
Right. So, a couple things, just to kind of go back a little bit to go forward, as Lorenzo's house, we have big dreams because we understand how big the need is. And 4 of the 5 of us who are our full-time staff with also contracted support and social workers who work and guide and facilitate our programs. 4 of us are educators, former educators. And there's so much power in being a former educator because we understand young people, we understand kids. We've worked with kids. We understand programming, scaffolding lessons, what outcomes look like, what different methodologies in approach to learning and teaching, what that looks like. So it has been a beautiful advantage to sort of where we've been in building our programs and bridging it to where we're going. When we think about our priorities at Lorenzo's house, first and foremost, it's always about refining our existing programs. We feel everything that Patti just shared about our match clubs and summit, there is what she didn't talk about is the how we do that, like the intention behind it, the planning behind it. We do not just enter Zoom rooms. There's just so much planning and thought prior, during, and after all of our sessions. So there's this sense of real quality, of constant feedback, of how do we get better and really listen and lean into what our families need. So constant learners, that's just in our DNA. So refining our programs always. And then the second piece is really about our futures in where we are, is that we're recognizing how important it is. We recognize what we're learning. We're learning information and knowledge that really we don't think anyone else is really gathering right now, locally, nationally, or internationally. So we're recognizing how important it is to gather and codify and disseminate our learnings together, our learnings with families, with sons and daughters, with allies, with experts, those who are paying attention to the younger onset space. We are designing what we call, with this learning, we are designing what we call our Light Academy. So while we have our 3 programs, we're going to have 3 pathways to learning inside our Light Academy. And this will be a virtual learning platform that will consist of these sort of 3 schools or learning pathways. One is for our cares and our allies, a place where caregiving families and those who are supporting them can go to gather information, to listen to stories, to gather tips and strategies and information. The second pathway or school is what we're calling our next gen of sons and daughters. This next gen YOD alliance is really about gathering and attracting the young people who want to take that next step in being a real advocate. And they want to be around like-minded people who want to do that same thing. And so this next gen of sons and daughters is this group of young people who will refine their story, craft and refine their story. And they will be the ones who are showing up in podcasts like this. Like I'm with Patti. I really don't ever want to enter a podcast without a son or daughter by my side. And these are the young people who will be at conferences and who will be the next neurologist or social worker who will really be leading this idea of building a YOD, a young onset dementia informed society. So that's our second school, is this next gen. And there's so much beautiful energy around it. And we're launching actually pieces of this at our summit in 2024. And then the third school, this third pathway is so powerful, is this idea of practitioners in the space. When we have a Mayo Clinic saying, we want to be YOD informed, younger onset dementia informed, can you help us? We sit back and say, wait, Lorenzo's house? Well, actually, yes, Lorenzo's house. So we're building out these webinars in this kind of asynchronous learning online where we can partner with clinics and hospitals, and we can partner with residentials, and we can partner with organizations that are working with families with dementia. And this is really young onset dementia, but also sort of dementia overall. This might be the bridge of dementia overall as well, is that we are really helping partner and inform and teach for YOD-informed organizations through that last strand. So through our Light Academy, we will design and educate, sort of utilizing modules of lived experience, the data we're finding, the information and knowledge and resources that we're gathering. And so our Light Academy will help build a younger onset informed society. And that's coming soon, little by little. And again, and the last thing I'll say about sort of Lorenzo's house is, as I think about our growth, and our team is so mighty and our team is so extraordinary, lived experience and talent, and we understand what startups look like. Startup organization is not, it takes a rare person to say, I want in. And we are constantly asking ourselves, what do we say no to so that we can say yes to the right things? We want to grow smart. We want to grow strategically. And that's really important to us to really understand the pace in which we grow. And it's hard because there's such a need, but we're being very strategic about the pace in which we grow, despite the fact that the demands there, it's a tender balance.
Yeah. Oh, most certainly. Well, and I think that it's so exciting you're creating this Light Academy to just share out even more broadly what you're learning, what you're finding, and how people can best support younger onset families. Because as both of you shared in your experiences, people didn't necessarily understand. So the more education that's provided to the general public, to practitioners, to lawmakers, hopefully the more YOD friendly our world will become. And I think one of the terms you keep mentioning throughout the podcast is dementia justice. So I would love for you to just share a little bit more, like, what does that mean? If you could define the term, how would you define it? And how does that kind of permeate all that you do at Lorenzo's house?
Patti, should I take a crack at that?
Yeah, why don't you kind of frame it, and then I'll share some examples from some of our young people as a way to share.
Because we lean in and listen to our young people, these two words have been put together, dementia and justice. And when it's interesting because the question really begins conversations. A lot of people are taken back by it, like there's some single answer, like there's some single definition. And for us, there really isn't a single definition. For us, dementia justice can mean so many different things to so many different people, especially when we're looking at this from a global perspective. But what it does is it begins a conversation, and it begins to normalize conversations around brain change. It begins to dismantle the stigma that surrounds families and keeps families quiet. And so when we say, what is dementia justice? The conversation I'm going to have with Lakelyn is going to make me better, because now all of a sudden my idea of dementia justice is going to be expanded. So it's provocative. It's kind of at the DNA of who we are, is what does dementia justice mean to you? And it's powerful, and it's a tool actually that we carry to connect us in this space that can be so hard and so heavy to kind of enter.
Well, and it's so beautiful because last year at Summit, we hosted this dementia justice panel that brought together young people from across the globe, where we really grappled with this question, and some of the responses that came from both that space and from the continued conversations that we have with young people and their families have been so powerful. So Will, one of our incredible young male carers in the UK, he says that to him, dementia justice is that caregiving is a medal of honor, right? It isn't viewed as a career gap, right? So often our young people, when we're having conversations and they're trying to make some heavy decisions between college and career, they feel worried or nervous about stepping away from their role or their job to caregive, because they're worried about what that will mean for their future, which is a really heavy thing to carry. We have this beautiful girl in named Olivia in California, and for her, dementia justice is that her dad can go to Disneyland and he can ride the rides like anyone else, right? And the power in that. For when I think about dementia justice, I think about, how do we find families? How do families feel connected and feel seen and feel understood? Diana often shares this beautiful piece about the clinicians. Diana, would you want to share your definition of dementia justice?
Well, there's so many, but I get this idea that families have, that every family would have a formal diagnosis from a quality neurologist and a care team that would wrap around them before they leave that hospital. That just, Thank you for holding space for us. I get emotional when we talk about this, but I had the privilege of living in the city of Chicago, where there were hospitals everywhere. And I even had the chance to say no to neurologist. I need to find a better one.
Yeah.
I mean, the privilege in that, the privilege in that is, we need to know the privilege in that. So Dr. Mastriani and his care team gave the Cose family that. And still they had no place to send us to find other families, right? And still there was no place where, it as a matter of fact, when we look back at that justice, it's the other side. When I think about justice, it's when families can find each other. When I think about Lucas coming down the hall after his first light club in 2021, 2022, we started the light club 6 months into, even we had 7 kids show up in a Zoom room. And Lucas was at that time 16, right? So he had lived 7 years, this journey without seeing it. He comes down the hall, it's COVID, and he says, Mom, I never knew there was another kid like me.
Wow.
How is that, right? That was a mere 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we have 400 sons and daughters coming together. It's miraculous. What we are, it's like build it and our community will come. It is just so needed. We are, and the other thing is with dementia justice is, it gives, I don't, maybe I've repeated it, but it gives younger families and particularly kids, our kids a place to, and how do you explain this, is to, dementia is not that cool, right? It's not like other charitable causes. It's not an issue that people want to talk about. So how do we make it, and it's our kids who are taking there, wait a minute, this is my story, this is a part of my identity. I am going to tell you that dementia justice matters, and I'm going to make it normal, and I'm going to make it kind of cool because it's who I am, and it's and enough of being silent.
Sure.
Wow. All of those examples are like giving me goosebumps. I just think that I love that you talk about how dementia justice means something different to everyone. But I think that the kind of like the underlying thread is being seen and understood in your journey and in how dementia is impacting you. And I just, I thank you for, pardon me, I thank you for sharing all of those examples and for creating a space where dementia justice can be spoken about, and awareness can be elevated on this topic because it is just so needed. And as we kind of wrap up our discussion, I know that there are many ways that you can connect with Lorenzo's house and you can get involved and you can help further dementia justice and help make connections. So, Patti, would you mind sharing with us the different ways people can connect? I know you mentioned the various programs that you have, but what are a few other ways?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Lakelyn. I think also one piece I just want to name about dementia justice, right, is that to Diana's point, right, it becomes this movement. I mean, our young people are even hopping on Zoom rooms and they are coming together and they are making dementia justice bracelets, right? Like I have some of the bracelets that our young people have made, right? And they become awareness tools and conversation starters and a way to start to normalize, as Diana said, right? Normalize conversations and dismantle misperceptions. So those even become just these really powerful tools for 14-year-olds who are coming together and making these bracelets and giving them to their friends and to us to give to our friends, right? Like it just becomes this movement. But yeah, there are.
And I tack on to that too. I want to tack on to that too, because the other thing that somebody said, that one of our young people said, and it was so powerful, it's that stigma starts at home. Right? The power to give someone a dementia justice bracelet, it's not a different kind of justice. There is a stigma you have to dismantle in your own spirit.
Totally.
And when you have a 15-year-old young boy learning, like through conversations, through reflections, well, maybe as we talk about how do we dismantle, we have this beautiful tool at Lorenzo's house called Empowerment Plus. Patti had referenced it slightly, but this tool literally is a 3-step approach to dismantling stigma. but that in itself is a form of dementia justice. So
Sure.
when you have kids leading in that way, I just wanted to tack that onto what you were saying, Patti, because it's powerful.
For sure. Well, and it's so true, right? Like there are these different layers and pieces that we are navigating both internally or within our own family unit or externally, right? And so how do we just really start to have those conversations? So thank you. And then thank you for the opportunity to share ways to get involved. So we have 8 ways to bring light with us here at Lorenzo's house. So first and foremost, connect us to daughters, sons, and families of younger onset dementia. We will welcome them into our virtual community with open arms. The person that will greet them at the front door will help families to feel seen and supported. Collaborate with us. Let's get creative together. We can meet you or your organization where you are. If you are partners, experts, become a Lorenzo's house friend. Follow us on social media and expand our reach. This really matters. You can expand our reach today and help to cure isolation for families just by resharing some of the things that we are doing. It can help to reach more families. Donate to our mission as a nonprofit organization. Every gift matters. Volunteer with us and be part of the solution. An army of volunteers are at the core of everything we do here at Lorenzo's house. Host a screening of our short film and bring awareness. We can meet you in any Zoom. We can meet you in any room at any time to really help to bring awareness to younger onset dementia in Lorenzo's house. You can also sign up for our inspiring newsletter. Join us as we share our programs and updates. Our newsletter is called Light the Way. It is beautiful. And then another opportunity, as we're talking about stigma, is to host a youth-led stigma seminar. This opportunity to educate and empower yourself and others and learn about our Empowerment Plus model. So thank you for the opportunity to share the ways to bring light with us.
Well, there's so many great ways, and we'll make sure, again, to put all the links in the show notes. But I have to call out the film because I was able to attend your screening. I think it was just last week virtually. And it's a short film, but gosh, it is so impactful. And Diana, you're in the film and you share your story and you bring along some of the medical professionals that walked alongside your family. And it was very moving, very touching. So definitely encourage people to check out all the ways to connect, but most certainly that film just to learn even more. And it's an easy way to kind of share. I mean, when you're able to watch a film, I think that it just opens people up to receiving the information and starting a really important conversation. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for that plug, because that short film, it's only, 13, 14 minutes, is really meant to inspire change. And it's just one story of millions out here. And I'd love to just close and just having your viewers understand too that Lorenzo's house, we're at this stage in our growth where our sort of our proof of concept has been demonstrated, right? Like we have demonstrated that there is a need out here. There really is sort of no other place that is unapologetically really bringing families in from across the globe to heal in community and advocate for dementia justice. And now this next phase of our growth, these next 5 years, are really about building a sustainable organization who's here for years to come until a cure is found. So that bridge of belief is where we are now from this idea, this concept, this single story to this bridge of we are here for years to come for families in need of healing and in need of support and light. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Lakelyn. We think the world of you. Your heart is so big and so pure and so good from the minute we met you. You've been a fan and so sincere. So we're grateful. And we get to see you in Orlando.
I know we're going to get to meet in person, which I'm so excited about. I can't wait for big, huge hugs for the both of you. And it's easy to just show my warmth because you have the same warmth and kindness and openness. And I want to thank you both for sharing, for being vulnerable, and for leading a way forward for so many families. And I can't wait in a couple years to have you back on the show, and we're going to talk about all the things you did in another short span of time, because I can just see how Lorenzo's house is going to just continue making a difference. So thank you again to the both of you for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next week.
Yay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Diana and Patti for joining me today, and for the amazing work they're doing through Lorenzo's house. You are changing lives by bringing compassion, connection, and hope to families who feel often too forgotten. To our listeners, if you know someone who's navigating young onset dementia, I encourage you to reach out to Lorenzo's house. You can even share this episode of Caregiver Chats. But know you are not alone. And if you found today's episode meaningful, I invite you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who can benefit from hearing this message. You can also email me your caregiving stories or podcast ideas at caregiverchats@homeinsteadinc.com. And follow us at Home Instead Inc. on social media for caregiving resources and podcast updates. Thanks for listening, and please remember to take good care of yourself while you care for others. Caregiver Chats is brought to you by Home Instead. If you're looking for in-home care to support you on your caregiving journey, please visit homeinstead.com to learn more.